Welcome to the Leah Darrow Podcast. I'm Leah, your mindset coach. I am a wife to a Green Beret, mom to 7, and your cheerleader in helping you raise those babies and chase those dreams without losing your mind. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, I wanted to talk today about the power of language. I talk about this so much. There's a whole lesson inside of Power Made Perfect about this. There's a whole module on it because language is so big. And everybody knows who's taken the course. I am constantly in my coaching talking about our language and our words matter so much. Our thoughts determine our lives. Our thoughts determine our lives. And what's crazy is that we have around 60,000 thoughts a day. 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% are negative. What? 80% are negative. So if that's the case, that tells me we have a lot of work to do to work on our language, to work on our thoughts, because if our thoughts are determining our lives and 80% of our thoughts are negative, we have a pretty negative life. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative. What do we do with that? How do we change? It takes time and effort, but it does work. What happens when we have created the habit of negative words, when we created phrases in our life that are really keeping us bound and chained to a fixed mindset and to a life that is very, honestly, negative? And you know these people. Maybe this is not you at all, but I know that you know people. Maybe it's somebody at work or in your family, or it doesn't matter. You know people. Open up the internet, you're going to find people who are victim mentality. Everything's wrong. They blame everybody else. They're always looking for a persecutor or a rescuer to get them out of a situation because they can't handle it on their own. Or maybe it's just somebody who doesn't do any of that, but they're just always freaking negative. I had an experience once where I was in with a group of women, other moms, and everybody's chit-chatting about just stuff. But I really didn't contribute much to the conversation. I didn't know what else to say because they were not saying bad things about their husbands or anything like that. They're loving, wonderful, good, faithful Christian moms. But man, every freaking word was just this negative dig on themselves, or they're all the things they can't do and they don't have time to do because of kids. And I mean, I get it. Some of it's true. Yeah, your time is super limited. Depending on the age of kids, there's seasons where it's just hard. Okay. But man, it was so negative. And the reason why I share this is that it brought the entire energy down. The vibe, the energy was very depleting and negative and a little bit of woe is me. And I just don't know what I'm going to do. Like just this constant state of exhaustion. Oh, it's just so hard over here. So outside of moments where we need to have a little bit of venting maybe, or we just need to say all the things to move on, this attitude and these thoughts do not help us, which is why so many times talk therapy is not beneficial. It's just ruminating on negative thoughts over and over and over. So 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative. What does that look like? This is what it looks like. All right. Imagine your hand cupped together and somebody pours a whole bunch of water in your hand, and then they pour a little bit of oil in your hand. You have it in your hands, you put your hands together, you let the water go. What's left on your hand? It's the oil. Water are all the positive and encouraging things that maybe somebody could say to you. The negative is the oil. What sticks around is the negative. And I've noticed this so much, at least in my own parenting. I have 7 kids. I have 5 boys and 2 girls. 5 boys. That just should tell you everything about my life. Okay. And they're not all wrestlers because the 2 babies aren't yet, Sylvester and Roland. But my other 3 boys, my older 3 boys wrestle. Wrestling is the most mindset oriented sport I have ever encountered. Change my mind on that. Wrestling is incredible when it comes to mindset work. And what I've noticed as a mindset coach, working with my own boys as they wrestle, and I just do the mindset work. My husband does all the coaching and stuff, but is getting their mind right before they go into practice, before they go into a match. And I know that I can say all the positive things I want to them. I can say all the encouraging words, life-giving words. But if you sprinkle in the negative, the oil's what's going to stick to them. It's what's going to stick around and stay. And the same thing happens for us. How many of you right now can remember that one thing that a teacher said to you, or that kid, in grade school, and you're 40, 50 years old? You still remember it. It sticks around. So 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative. We have to do something about that to change it. How do you change your thoughts so that you can change your life? How do you change your words to help you change your thoughts? What is it in your heart that has to be healed and transformed so that our thoughts are coming from a place of hope and love and mercy and gratitude? And one of the ways that you can practice that, one of the ways is to stop thinking about yourself. Stop thinking about yourself. Focus in on helping someone else. There's always someone close to you that could use something, anything, a cup of tea, go help them with laundry, go help a kid with homework, whatever it might be, but go help someone else. And that kind of goes back to get your mind off yourself. And if you can't find somebody to help right away, a practice that you can do every single day that will help change your thoughts and will help change your life is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude. Finding something to be grateful for. There's so many things that God gives us in this life that we can be grateful for. And it does take time, but it's absolutely worth it because the negative mindset is literally killing us. Negativity creates more stress in the body than anything else. Our thoughts actually can change our health. And so what can we do to become more grateful? It's just taking an honest account of your life, the good things that have happened, the good people that have come to help, the good things, how God has provided everything for us in so many different ways, and allowing you to recognize it and then say it out loud, write it down, whatever it is for you. Some people love journaling. My best friend Jen loves journaling. Like, the woman could journal her life away and she'd be like, it was the best time of my life. It was the best time of my life. My best friend is Jen Fulweiler. She's a comedian, stand-up comedian. You should go check her out. She's amazing. She's hilarious. She's funny, but she loves journaling. So Jen and I talk almost every single day. And when it comes to challenges that we have, or insecurities that we have, or anything that goes on in our personal life, our professional life, we have different ways that we go about our problems. Jen's way is journaling. I'm a verbal processor. So I will talk it out. I will say the things I need to say. I will speak the affirmations. I will talk it out. I'll work with stuff, but I need to do that. Not Jen. Jen will journal for hours. She'd be like, I figured out all my problems. I journaled for 17 hours and the problems are done. And she's not lying. The point is, in this very long story, is that however it works for you to get to the point of gratitude and speaking that gratitude out and saying it or looking at it and writing it down, that's what needs to happen. Again, our thoughts can't just stay up here. We have to verbalize them, and they need to create space in the physical world. We need to hear it. We need to say it. Your mouth is the coach and your brain is the team. And you have to say things to yourself to let yourself hear it, because our brains are always working in the affirmative. They're always working in a way to say, like, oh yeah, you are right. So if you say, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, I'm so overwhelmed, your brain's gonna be like, okay, let's make sure we give her all the evidence to show that she's right. Your brain's going to do that. Your mind wants to work in the affirmative. So changing our language is one of the easiest ways that we can start changing actions. We see this all the time with people who have a very negative mindset. They have negative thoughts and it steers their ship in a certain way. Being around those people, honestly, it's like me being with a dementor. It sucks the life force off of my body. I'm around somebody who is constantly negative and I can't. Every single problem is this massive problem that can never be fixed and there's never a solution. I don't want to hear that crap. There's a solution to everything. There's a solution to everything. Frankly, the solution is probably God, but there's other things we can do to help with that solution as well. There's a solution to everything. Find the solution. Ask somebody else. You are not the only one with the problem that you have. But a lot of times these negative thoughts, they're rooted with something deep that we need healing from. So it's not just replacing it, which I love. And I love talking about replacing negative words with positive words, replacing disempowering words with empowering words. Yes, we need to do that. But to get to the root, we have to figure out, why do I say that all the time? Why am I always saying that? Is it just habit? Did I just hear it? Is there some pain attached to that from my past? When you start to look at the root of those negative thoughts, That's the healing process, right? It starts there. It starts there. So many times when we have negative thoughts, to me, it's always been a red flag that there's something that requires forgiveness and mercy, repentance, mercy, all of it. There's someone I need to forgive. There's something that needs to be repented of. Our thoughts are determining our lives. And if we don't stop and take a second about what are the most common words I use every day, and is that the life that I want? What are the most common words you use to describe your life every single day? That's the life you're living. And if you're okay with that, keep going. If you're not, and you're like, man, I don't want a fine life, an okay life, like, overwhelmed life. I don't want that. Okay. So changing our thoughts starts with changing our words, but then looking at the root of those words that we were using and finding out, like, why do I keep saying that? Is it sometimes, honestly, it's just habit. Sometimes it's just, I picked it up because I heard my mom say it, because I heard somebody else say it. And that's how I described this feeling, but maybe that's not the right word. For example, one of the words that I used to always say, and it was so triggering for me because it put me immediately into such a negative space, and it was the word overwhelmed. I would say all the time, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. People come up to me, oh, how are you doing? I'm overwhelmed constantly. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I mean, and also, how does my husband feel to constantly being told, like, oh, she's going to tell me she's overwhelmed? Like, watch out, because who knows what's going to happen. It just sets the tone for something that goes downhill very quickly. And so I began to figure out, why am I saying that? And I realized for me, it was one habit. I was using that word all the time for everything. It was a big blanket I would just put over all my problems. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. Well, am I really overwhelmed, or did I just not spend enough time organizing a certain thing that is now not going as planned? Or am I really overwhelmed, or am I just in a spot in a season where there's a lot of things happening? They're all very good, but there's just a lot of things happening. Sometimes it wasn't even a negative thing, but I was using the negative word for an almost neutral or even positive experience, just to say that there's a lot going on. So what I've done is I've changed that word from me, because it triggered me so much, to certain behaviors after I would say that, and certain thoughts about myself too, are just not great. But I changed that word to the word in demand. So when I actually was overwhelmed, I'd be like, I'm very in demand right now. And it was at least a more empowering word than overwhelmed for me. And it was a word that helped me stop and think about how I wanted to proceed with the situation that I'm in. What can I change? What can I change now? And what can I change in the future so I don't find myself in this situation again? And I found myself too, my time management was way off. I was learning as a new mom, in that new mom stage of, how do I manage my time? How can I do all these things? Can I do all these things? Am I doing too much? Am I expecting too much from myself? And I had a lot of things I had to answer for myself. But again, it's an example of how you can take negative thoughts, negative words that can spark negative thoughts and spark negative actions. And you can start changing it to where it's describing it maybe more accurately, or at least it takes the umph out of it, so that you can hopefully not be triggered and not go down that same roller coaster that you were on before every time you would use a negative word. At least that's how it's been for me. And this goes without saying, but every single time that you put a magnifying glass on yourself and you're like, and you look at yourself wondering, where can I improve? That's a tough space to be in. It's hard to see ourselves how we really are, and to look at words that we're using, thoughts that we're having, that we know God would never, ever talk to us that way. We know it. So why do we give ourselves permission to speak that way to ourselves, or even to other people? But every time that we face our problems, every time that we face these little bumps in the road, we have an encounter really with our higher self. We have an encounter with our better self. We have an encounter with our better self. and it's a meeting, and we have to decide who's going to walk away from it. Are we going to leave the stuff that we've learned about ourselves that is not great and say, okay, we're going to change. We're going to start the process. Every opportunity that gives us more clarity on who we really are, and we look at our weaknesses and we look at our problems and we face them, is honestly an opportunity where we're meeting our better self. We're meeting the highest version of ourselves. And it's a meeting where we get to choose who's going to walk away. Are we going to take the information of, okay, these are the things that I've been saying that are bringing me down. These are the negative words that are kind of steering the ship. This is not who I want to be. I am not that person anymore. I am going to change. This is how I'm going to change. This is the process of how I'm going to change. This is what I'm going to start doing. The gratitude I'm going to start showing myself, the mercy I'm going to start showing myself and others, the words that I'm going to use instead of these words. And I'm going to start the process and allow this change to happen. That's when the highest self gives the old version the high five, and they take it from there. You relay off, you give the baton to the highest self, and you let that highest self of you, the highest version of you, run, like go, take it from here. I'm done. My leg of the journey is done. I think the best part about personal development is constantly facing weaknesses in ourselves and saying, okay, I got something to work on. This is not great. It's impacting my life, my family, my relationships, and I want to change. I mean, those are the people that I love coaching. You are my people who are willing to be like, yes, let's look at myself and see what do I need? What do I need right now to change, or the time to reflect on myself a little bit so that I can repent, I can change, I can convert, I can choose truth over myself. That's what I want, right? So with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Leah Darrow Podcast. I hope that you take this and are empowered to find some better words for yourself that are going to empower you. They're going to give a positive outlook in your life, because remember, our thoughts determine our lives. So take an account. If you're not sure what to do next, here's what I can tell you. I would write down all the most common words you use to describe your life, frustrations, great things, whatever it might be. So when things go really bad, what are the phrases or words that you say? When things go really good, what are the phrases and words that you say? And you'll notice, how do I know if I need to change anything? If the negative ones are really negative and really demeaning, especially personally to yourself or others, and then if your positive ones are just not that positive, you've already tipped the scale. You're already way too negative, because the positive isn't even balancing it out. I would start there and find, with the words that are negative, find words to disempower them. Take the oomph out of the sail. So for me, that was moving from overwhelm to in demand, as just an example. But start there, write everything down. Circle the ones that you know are the big ones, the ones you say all the time that are clearly steering the ship in your life. Another example on the positive side, it's very common for me to say, I'm good. I'm good. There's nothing wrong with that. But do I want a good life? I mean, yeah. Of course, that's not bad. But I just thought, how could I elevate it though? How could I elevate it? Because words do matter. Words have energy around them. They automatically make us feel something. So good wasn't doing it for me anymore. And sometimes I would say good, but I was not good. I was great. But it's like great is, I don't know. It just feels a little bit too elementary, I guess, for me. Point being, I chose to use this word magnificent, because I want a magnificent life. Yeah, that sounds great. Who wouldn't want a magnificent life? So I would start responding, I'm magnificent. I'm magnificent. Thanks. And I will tell you, it stopped people when in the conversation, oh, okay. So you're magnificent. And I was like, I am. Have a magnificent day. It changed the energy to a positive tone. So again, those are just examples. That's a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for joining in. If you have a quick moment, please subscribe and send me a great review. It was so helpful. That means a lot to me. Until then, remember, everything is always working out for us. And I'll see you next time.